Hi there, welcome back to the Dylan Rounds case. Welcome if you're currently here in the live premiere. Today we're talking about the Dylan Rounds case, the silence of it all for the last few months. Don't know how long to be honest, but I'd argue and say that this is the longest amount of time where things have been very quiet on the case and more so on the inside with the people such as family members, friends. Besides that documentary that did come out, I can't remember now, was it like several weeks ago or something? Did a few videos on that, but it wasn't exactly revealing anything new in that sense for updates. It was more reflecting back. But some red flags were noted and mentioned by the people within, which I never heard of before. That aside, though, I think you could also put a fair argument across and say within the last month or two, maybe longer, not much progress has been made, just in general. Whilst I've been able to do some videos here and there on the case, looking back, clearing up stuff, trying to look for anything else, any other ideas, concepts, not much has happened, and that's just being realistic, right? I mean, you can argue more and say it's actually a miracle that it's lasted this long, the coverage on the case, because whilst, yes, the Kenny Veach mystery M-Cave stuff continues on, and whilst it was covered back then for over 2 years by me, it was never like a video every single day like the Dylan Rounds case. So before we go any further with what I'm going to talk about today, what I would say is, should at least be appreciative, not you, but like a third person way of saying it towards myself. I can be in a position to acknowledge that with the material present and what's been present more so in the past, to be able to get a hold of it, to be able to look at it, to analyse, to compare, contrast, and to be able to do that almost every single day for an entire year. I mean, I've never experienced that before, to that depth. Considering the Dylan Rounds case, although a missing person one and although true crime, it's not got that strong level of mystery as some of the other missing people cases out there, because it's true crime, more serious, more focused. You know, the location of Dylan is a mystery, but the possible methods and the ones possibly responsible seems a bit more clearer. I know some people would argue that, but you can follow a certain linear route murder case, right? With the Kenny Veach mystery, missing person, you got the mystery of the cave, you got the mystery of Kenny's disappearance. Some argue he's alive, others say he's not. Like multiple things going on there, different theories and ideas. But with the Dylan Rounds case, for it to be able to go on long as this, for as long as possible, to try and keep it alive, you can say that now it probably has gone flat, technically speaking. You do have boots on ground people out there. Of course, you still got Lance Kelly, and from the looks of it, Ty Corbin most recently, and Scott Natal getting involved shortly once again with Les Natal and Alan, etc. See what happens there. They do what they need to do. That's good, provide from their perspective. I've been looking about online, okay, whether it be certain forums, Facebook page, it's silent there. There's not really any questions, no updates by the family. For it to go on this long, do you argue and say, well, that's a bad sign? They must be not getting anywhere, or do you say that it's a good sign? Must be something really important going on. I mean, to be fair, in the early days where it was most critical and vital to find Dylan, and when things were more fresh and active and resources could be, maximised, utilised, then there wasn't silence in the early days, despite things being found. There was still a level of communication in some way or another, right? Yeah, at this point, this long stretch would make me believe that maybe things have slowed down, right? Be interesting from the perspective of people who have been out there searching for Dylan, a one-off, recent time, regular. Have they seen any additional searches taken place? Any family members, officials out there? I wonder. What should we talk about first of all? Of course, you know, if you are here present watching, welcome. If you're returning back, welcome. Just share your thoughts and opinions in the live chat. If you need to talk about other stuff, feel free. If you need to have any cat fights, any conflict, feel free, okay? As for last night's video, it was a serious one. It was a focused one. Maybe at times, certain people, levels of degeneracy, but eventually certain people manage to get a bit of a grip of themselves, right? Just to take into mind people watching right here, right now, when covering other cases, such as the Christine Parker one from last night. There's a level of focus, there's a level of seriousness and detachment from the Dylan Rounds community in a sense, right? Don't want to be dragging things over, or don't want to be dragging too much over. Don't want the presence from the Dylan Rounds case from, you know, more so back then coming into the Christine case where it being completely different. Don't want to contaminate anything, right? So I try and just focus from one to another. Sometimes comparisons can be made and need to be made, right? I mean, the Aidan Clune case, that's kind of gone flat as well. Is it inevitable that all these cases kind of go flat with time? Yeah, because there'll be many more out there which have not even been covered or recognised to begin with and went cold. Are all these cases technically classified as cold now? No, I don't believe so. But there's only so much you can do. There's only so much you can cover, both physically on ground and also in the media aspect, unless there's like a breakthrough, there's some kind of new evidence, new lead, but it's like a matter of waiting, time related. It can't just suddenly fly out of nowhere, or you can't expect it to fly out of nowhere. But, you know, this is just kind of like loose talk, okay? But if you are interested in the Christine Passey Parker case, another missing individual, missing woman, feel free to check the link out down below in the comment section, the link to that video from last night. And there'll be some additional links if you wish to check them out. Was there any shout outs in brief? Maybe Cleo, I think. Anybody else? I don't think so. I did a light-hearted video, not yesterday, but the day before. If you want to check that one out, you can. It's available on the channel. You need to get away from any conflict, drama, tension. Well, you got videos there which are available. As for weather, I mean, the weather here, reasonable. Like, luckily, it's not been hot compared to previous years. But what about the weather in such as key places like Montello, Nevada, Lucin, Utah, when it comes to Dylan Rounds' case, and if there are other missing people out there? How's it been? I mean, this thing, some people talk about wildfires possibly spreading through the area or kind of near, more so flooding elements too. And yet, when I went on, when I was briefly looking at Facebook, and you look at the Lucin page or certain posts related to Lucin, there wasn't really any updates on weather conditions issues there. So I wonder why there's a level of silence in that regards, because the last time when it was June 2023 and you had the flooding in the area and also Montello, it was mentioned more online. Maybe it's just because it was more important and more impactful back then compared to how it is now, possibly. I still think weather does play a key part in the case and investigation, how it can prevent you from searching, but how it can also reveal certain piece of possible evidence. There are other times where it could like conceal it or move it elsewhere, so it makes it hard to track and locate. And you're not always out there, the next time you go, things may have changed slightly and been altered with, like the environment. Naturally, you try keeping tabs of it all, I wonder. But I think what I'll just mention with first, just to structure this video, just briefly talk about what's recently been going on within the case or what people have been recently finding, okay? And then I'll transition into more of my own thoughts, right? This, yeah, I know some people could say it could have been done as like a live stream, this, but I might as well mention this first, to be honest. And I have explained it in the past before I even did any live streams, was when it comes to doing them, you can be talking about something, but because of the chat and you might as well respond to it, whether there's a question or a point made. End up getting distracted by the comments in the chat. So I could be talking about something, like really into it, and then the flow is broken because of reading the chat. This is what I was mentioning way back then. So that's why when I have done the odd little talk video or question one regarding the different cases, that I've ended up going off on a tangent or just suddenly randomly cutting it up and then talking about something completely different. But that's just because of random stuff appearing on the screen, like the comments messages. Whereas when I do it in this format, there's really no distractions, you know, nothing popping up on the screen, nothing getting in the way, no obstacles. I'm just talking, and there's a better flow, and you need a flow to be able to understand and follow it, right? If it's fragmented, broken up, what I have basically demonstrated naturally with my past, well, recent live streams when talking about maybe something more serious is a microcosm of what all the other true crime channels have done when they've done their long live streams, spending 3, 4, maybe longer hours talking about a case, but also getting entangled with all other irrelevant things, right? That's why it's best probably to keep them separate. So when live streams are done, it's a bit more loose. Could be a bit of a debrief, a bit casual. Whereas here, it's like, get your seatbelt, lock up, strap on, wrong word, and, you know, try and take notes if possible. Is it possible to be taking notes within the Dylan Brown's case right now, though, with this level of silence? I think what it does, it opens up the possibility, it opens up like a portal, you know, a place where ideas can be generated. But if it's been known and somewhat notorious that people out there, groups, clumps of them, have talked a load of BS, and now the floor is open once again, you get recurring themes, right? What good does that do? Then you got a long cleanup job. As I said, when it comes to my situation, because recently, the last Dylan Rounds video I did properly to do with the acid talk, it was a theory, but it was worded appropriately, unlike other people. Just looking at it from Badger's point of view, which was interesting, that was over 1 week, well, 7 days ago, almost basically a week ago, right? That's the last time I did a proper Dylan Rounds video, a week ago. You take into consideration the ratio was almost a video every single day on the case. You definitely know things have come to a halt when you see the ratio now, but it is what it is. There's no point forcing videos out. There's no point getting desperate when you think, oh, no more ideas, nothing left to talk about, so let's just cause a load of rumours or, you know, a load of random stuff. If there is something valid, some kind of material, a tip-off, bit of information to look back on, then yeah. But if you're just pulling it out of the hat randomly, then I don't know, what good does that do? What's the aim of this video? Well, the aim of this video was actually a sudden idea I had, because when I was doing a live stream like a week or two ago, I said I was going to be talking about the what ifs, the, you know, would the case be any different if there was less people covering it? Would it be better off? That's what I was going to talk about, but I forgot to do so. Though I can do it here today, okay? And you can share your thoughts, opinions, and reactions down below. We can be looking at the what ifs of, you know, would it have been better off or worse off, the case overall and the community, if there was less people covering it? Or is it better that more people cover it, as what we've experienced and seen? And then also just some other talk as well. You know, we'll get to it eventually, but I think first and foremost, we don't need to look at the comments, right, at the last video or two, because there's not really that many comments. I get that, because when you got a live premiere or a live stream, people are less likely to leave comments because they've said all what they've got to say in the chat itself. I get that. Does it help spread awareness on a case, on a video, if you leave comments? I believe so. More engagement. YouTube seems to acknowledge it. But at the same time, there's only so much people can say, which I do understand. You know, how else could you work around it? I mean, really, I don't know if I ever would, or, well, I used to upload a video just as a standard video, no live premiere, no live stream, just a standard video. Would that have any difference, effect? Guess there's no harm in trying someday, right? But got to try and think of a Dylan Rounds video to do first of all. But I think I will do it as an experiment. If it comes a time where there is a genuine idea or thought, let's say in the Dylan Rounds case, I'm going to make it and upload it as a normal video, no live premiere, and see, do more people comment on that compared to a live premiere? Because when people want to share their thoughts or reactions, they won't be able to in a standard video uploaded because there's no live chat. So they'll have to leave comments down below in the comment section, and then I can compare statistically, is there much of a difference? Guess there's no harm in trying, right? But yeah, just to refer back to what's recently gone on, besides the potential waves and opportunistic type behaviour by people out there that could then take advantage of this level of silence in the case, I mean, one other thing just to acknowledge, I did predict another thing, and I was like to do with Bob Farrell, how sticking around, but also how, you know, through certain disagreements, maybe not aligning with one another, the likes of, you know, darker forces out there, and then you got Bob Farrell. It just seems kind of obvious how it was going to go. I mean, you know, is there anything else just to highlight? Might as well highlight whilst we're here. I think what humans have done, anyone particular, just speaking in general, you know, because it doesn't have to apply to the Dylan Rounds community case. It can apply anywhere, any place, any time. But I do sense that maybe at times humans will try and mirror my language, my wording, my comparisons, my visionary explanations. Why? Because they feel it might be somewhat effective. That maybe I have an influence over certain humans out there, who knows, good or bad, but, you know, it is what it is. I do notice patterns and changes within human behaviour, so I'm more likely to pick up on it compared to other people. Have they failed or have they succeeded? Neither, really. It's been pretty neutral because it's only been glimpses here and there, certain ideas, certain types of behaviour, certain styles and coverage. I mean, when you look at Lance Kelly, kind of off subject now, but when it comes to Lance Kelly doing his searches and looking for Dylan, he never really used to use Google Earth, but all of a sudden he's using Google Earth. He's got the maps, the routes planned out, some kind of like man-made radius without having access to the circle because you can't on Google, but doing all that. Now, when it came to the Kenny Veach case, when I was covering that to do with Las Vegas, I was looking at Sheep Range, Jeremy Canyon. I was actually marking out the hike routes by Kenny Veach, by Jeff Clark, by Scott Natal, and maybe a few others like Jay Silverhills. I actually marked it out myself blindly. I'm not even from the US. I'm not even from the area. I've never seen it in real life before, and yet I was able to mark it out somewhat accurately, to the point where certain hikers out there were shocked at the fact that I seemed to know it so well, even though I was just, you know, going with the flow. But, you know, catalyst, right, in a sense. And, you know, people that will or hear, you know, would have heard of Scott Natal when it comes to the Dylan Rounds case. Scott Natal, arguably his channel was created, appeared on YouTube because of the Kenny Veach case about 2 years ago, 1 to 2 years ago. So before Dylan Rounds went missing, before people heard of Scott Natal was doing the Kenny Veach case coverage, and before Scott Natal came along, I was covering the Kenny Veach case, and then just before me, it was Jeff Clark, and then before Jeff Clark, it was Sean Horlacher in 2015, right? So you see the timeline, how things evolved. Sean Horlacher 2015 onwards, Jeff Clark 2017-16 onwards, me 2020 onwards. But in terms of already knowing about the case, I did date back to 2015. So at the age of 15 years old, me being 15 years old at the time in 2015, I already knew about the Kenny Veach case, the M Cave mystery, and just listened in. But it was only 2020 where I felt, right, I've found something. I thought I could, put my input in, and that's where it begun. And then 2021 or so, Scott Natal appeared out of nowhere. He did his channel, his intro. He stood there casually saying, "My name's Scott Natal. I'm going to be looking into the Kenny Veach case. Going to be heading out there." And then straight away, bang, out there searching, hiking, really hands-on, looking at all the different possible caves, looking at possible fill-ins, markings, and even indirectly, unknown to him, capturing ancient, strange symbols on rocks, which I documented on my channel, which has still remained a mystery to this day and have actually been forgotten about by humans out there. So I might have to do a video on that down the line, right? It's just one of those things. But yeah, I know, the origins of Scott Natal, how he appeared. As for Les Natal, I only heard about him a bit later on, more so in the Kenny Veach case, because Les Natal at times commented on my post, so it was good of him. Both of them, at least from what I've seen and known of, good individuals. They've never caused any trouble, even in the Kenny Veach days, and the community there never engaged in drama, never really got dragged or brought into drama. It was pretty calm, and he just kept on doing his own thing, going out there, hands-on, physical, trying to make sense of stuff. So that was all good. And Scott Natal arguably has remained consistent from then in 2021 in Las Vegas, Nevada, up to now, 2023, at Lucin, Utah. Now, how did Scott Natal get from one place to another? Well, arguably it's to do with work, where he had work, where he had to go to work. So back then, Las Vegas, Nevada, somewhere around there, working down there, then had the opportunity to look about, search around for missing people, right? And then I guess work shifted elsewhere, more up to Utah. So then that opened the chances of being able to get involved within the Dylan Rounds case. I don't know how Scott Natal heard about it. Maybe it was on the news, where he was at the time. I know where there's been like the transition where when I went from the Kenny Veach case to the Dylan Rounds, quite a few people moved along, which was good. I don't know how many, long time or regular viewers have remained or stuck around, right? Because the high levels of consistency never seen before, maybe people weren't expecting it, this overload of coverage on a particular single case. But to be fair, there was like background factors, as I said, distractions, and then it became a routine, and it's just been like that since, and there's been things to cover. Kenny Veach, M Cave case, there's only so much you could cover there, right? And as well with people going out hiking, it wasn't every day, it wasn't always once a week or once a month, it was stretches apart from one another, which you would expect, right? Because it's understandable, the distance out there, the dangers and the risk. Is it riskier searching in Lucin, Utah than it is in Jomay Canyon? No, Jomay Canyon is much more rough, much more extreme and demanding for sure, okay? Certain hikers out there will tell you about that, okay? I'm sure Scott Natal would as well, because he was out there. Scott Natal did go into mines, mine shafts when looking for Kenny, so hands on there. Although it may have been only 1 or 2 mine shafts, he did it at a time where everybody else previous, before we knew of the odd other group of people out there, everyone was either using the ladder, safety ropes, combination. When Scott Natal went, he had no safety ropes. He just climbed down the ladder, which was already damaged from previous people. So, yeah, but he managed. It was quite shocking and surprising at the time. No one was expecting Scott to be able to do that, but he did, pulled it off. As of more in recent time with the Dylan Rounds case, been using the harness, the cables, the hooks, taking safety first, of course, probably more demanding, that uncertainty. If you've been to somewhere a few times, you probably get a better idea of it, how to approach it. You're going for the very first time, just got to take things a bit slower. And speaking of visiting places and going into potential mines or mine shafts or cave systems, seems as of recently that Ty Corbyn acknowledged that the likes of Scott Natal, Les Natal, and Alan from Mountain Labs Fortress are going to be within the area, I believe, of Lucin, Utah. If it's not Lucin, probably Montello, Nevada, near to the mountains, one or the other locations. I'm sure for context, if you check out Ty Corbyn's channel, he has recently uploaded videos, so feel free to check them out, okay? Recent searches. The only thing I would highlight, just quickly, okay, whilst people in the past might have complained and falsely labelled my videos as being clickbait, at least my titles actually mention the name of the missing person, okay? I mean, looking at Ty Corbyn's videos, they can be helpful, they can be useful and interesting, but in just about all of the videos, the titles don't say Dylan Rounds. That's a major set of key words, Dylan Rounds. Instead, it's like searching up the highway, searching down the railroad, big scary hole, getting dark now, out here, at pivot north of Grainshed, near a wash. Very vague wording. Now, to the people within the case who've been around long enough, you're obviously going to know what it's referring to. You're going to know that Ty Corbyn's channel is more focused on finding Dylan, or has been up to now. But if you're a new person coming on in, right, and you see that, you're probably not going to see it. You're probably not going to click on it. You're probably not going to be informed about it because it doesn't mention anything about the missing person's name in the title or the thumbnail. So it's got nothing to do with clickbait, but it's to do with missing out on a key opportunity of that full-on awareness, right? I mean, no, I'm not going to mention it because it'll just cause more trouble. But titling is necessary. If you got important information or an important finding, you got to try and word it a certain way so a lot of people will watch the video. And it's the thing, people jump to that conclusion of, oh, you want lots of people to watch this video, so that means you're going to manipulate it. That means that's all you care about, the views, the numbers, the amount of people that watch it. Well, if the whole aim of the person is to be able to spread awareness of a missing person case, well, of course you want as many people to hear about it, right? What's the point saying, well, my aim today is to upload a video and get 12 views, so only 12 people on this earth hear about a missing person case. Oh, I'm going to upload a video tomorrow with a key finding to prove that someone is still alive, and I aim to get about 2 people within this entire planet to watch the video. That's a failure, right? No doubt about it, that's failure. You got to do what you can to spread the awareness and try and do it naturally as well. Yeah, other people out there might buy this or buy that to improve statistics, but naturally, you just want to acknowledge to people. It's like with, maybe in the past, people may have spread awareness on Twitter, Facebook, Facebook pages, maybe Reddit, regarding different topics and themes. I never did that, right? Because I didn't have those accounts. I can't really be bothered to. In recent time, because of the YouTube stuff and mess there, yeah, I did have to create a Twitter account, which was a bit annoying, but I just did. And ever since, I've just posted the odd link on there. So if anyone's on Twitter, just random people that they see the link, they hear about the case, and then they might click on and then watch the video and goes from there, right? I mean, way back in the past, I did have a Twitter account before I deleted it. What did I really use it for? Was it to share links to my videos? Probably not, because I wasn't really doing YouTube properly back then. Probably just more messing around, gameplay with people I was friends with at the time. And that was really it. Posting the odd funny clip and then other friends reacting to it. That was pretty much it. Very casual. I do understand that across platforms, there's no harm in linking this with linking that. But still, you can't expect for it to be a success all the time, right? It's just one of those things. But anyway, referring back, besides the titling and stuff, the content itself is still present, and done somewhat well by Ty Corbin. But yeah, some upcoming searches looking at mine shafts, which are supposedly suspicious, which supposedly was visited by Brenner at some point in the past. How true is that? Don't know. There was a clip where Ty Corbin was basically stood next to the drop of a mine shaft or so, an opening into the ground, and it had like a grid or some kind of railing over it to cover it, I guess, to prevent people from falling in, right? But could it have been done as a way of keeping people out from finding Dylan's remains? Well, would there be any flies hovering over that like hole or not? I don't know. But Ty Corbin demonstrated the depth of it by dropping a fair-sized stone into the hole. But I was just kind of thinking, if you might have a slight idea or a small sense that Dylan could be in one of these mine shafts, then what are you doing dropping a decent-sized rock in there where it could hit the body of Dylan and crush the skull? You know what I'm saying? It just seemed a little bit reckless. I mean, if you dropped a tiny little stone, maybe, but dropping a bigger size one like that, and it drops on down, bum, 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 bum. What if Dylan's body is in there and that rock has kind of damaged the remains? Not exactly a bit reckless, right? But, I guess in a way that's what Candice Cooley has been getting at in general with people out there. Possible levels of recklessness. The only lucky good thing is, up to now at least, nothing of high value has been deeply damaged, right? I think what you got to also acknowledge and understand is, whilst you might get people out there, you get family members calling out, people searching for possibly harming evidence and key stuff within the case, that they themselves have, in a sense, damaged key important evidence by breaking into the back window of Dylan's truck and driving Dylan's truck and losing all that data. Technically, it's on them. They're responsible for that, but they themselves were given the thumbs up by the police, who are also to blame. At the end of the day, besides doing that whole blame game back and forth, it's just by saying that people are out there searching. They could maybe contaminate or ruin potential evidence, but it hasn't happened yet. But it could still happen. Though, with the people out there calling those out, that they themselves have actually damaged potential evidence in the past. So do certain people have a leg to stand on? Probably not. So that's all I'm saying. Oh, is it starting to rain outside now? Could be. So it'll be interesting to see what footage comes about. I'm sure Scott Natal will do a long video exploring the mines, the mine shafts. People most likely will watch. Do I follow other people's videos? Maybe at the times where it's necessary, right? Where I've got my own ideas, my own coverage. I kind of just like really focus in on that, because at times when I'm not making a video, I'll be researching or trying to think of a video, trying to piece together different things, right? It's not like the mind completely shuts off. Maybe the mind shuts off when you have reached a checkpoint, when there's nothing left to cover within the case. So in a way, the week of silence when not covering the Dylan Rounds case up until now, I've not really been thinking about it as much. Here and there, I may have checked online just to see if there's any updates on the Facebook post page, but there hasn't been, right? What do you do? People watching right now, or those in the background, let me know your thoughts. Times when you looked at the Dylan Rounds case, or maybe other cases out there, whether you've covered it or you've just researched into it, what have you done when you've reached that dead end? Do you walk away? Do you stick around? Do you push through it somehow? Or do you retrace your steps and look back? And that's a key word, right, within the Dylan Rounds case: reflection. Looking back. Looking back on Dylan, looking back on Dylan's life, looking back at Brenner's past, looking back at the days following up to the disappearance of Dylan, looking back early on, post Dylan's disappearance and being reported missing, a lot of reflection has taken place. How much success has come out of it? Well, you could argue, if it's in the words of Candice Cooley-Justin Rounds, that they knew about everything within the first few days of the case and Dylan being reported missing, then really there is no need to reflect if it was already known about to begin with. But you can argue and say, as for the online perspective, you know, with the amount of mess and confusion caused by different people over time, both channels and audience members, that for others, there was a clean-up job. And to be able to clean it up, move it aside, or banish it for good, you had to look back at the past and start from the bottom, work your way back up in certain areas. Maybe not completely, but just certain elements. And I think that was a success, right? Sure, people jumped on in the past saying, oh, that's already been talked about. Oh, we already knew about that all those months ago. And it's like, you may have done, others didn't. Oh, I wonder why. Oh, because it's a 4-5 hour long live stream of cutting out. Sorry, can you rotate the screen around? Oh, I can't hear you. What? Oh, there's people screaming in the background. Wow, wow, wow. Oh, I can't hear you. It's all cutting out. Oh, there's a bit of an echo. Who's got their device turned on? Well, it wasn't me. No, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. No, 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 it wasn't me. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. The echo in the background. Disaster. It's a circus performance. Sometimes one-on-one, yeah, good. But a one against all, basically a video or a pre-recorded one or something, and then presented to the audience. Not as many distractions for the person doing the video, but also for the people listening. Live chat, possibly a distraction, but it's just a visual distraction, not an auditory distraction. As I was saying in the past, if you're looking at a live stream, let's say a live call-in, a live panel, and you want to learn about Dylan Round's case, you got to ask yourself and weigh this up. Are you more likely to learn and focus more about the Dylan Round's case within a live a live stream, live panel format with people? Or are you more likely to focus in a pre-recorded video? Pre-recorded video, really the only distraction you're going to get is a visual one, which is the chat. You can eliminate the chat by simply clicking full screen and watching the video of me talk, if that's what you want. If you don't want to see my face, you can close your eyes and just listen to the voice. So there's ways of avoiding the distractions. With a live stream, a live panel call-in, trying to listen and take notes, okay, the chat could be a bit problematic. You eliminate that, you go on full screen. You're listening in, hearing key stuff, and then you got the noise or people over talking with the people on panel. That's an obstruction. Can you avoid it? As a viewer, no, you can't. You can't do anything about it. So there's already limitations there, right? And there's also risk of people going off on a tangent, as I demonstrated naturally myself when I did those live streams recently, when I was trying to talk about Dylan Rounds, but then I got distracted by other stuff. That's just how it is. It's natural, right? That's why these videos are just more practical in general, okay? I'm kind of crossing over with my own thoughts when talking about this stuff, but it's just the only flow I can do at this moment in time. As I said, leave your thoughts down below, you know, whether it be theories, ideas within the Dylan Rounds case. I mean, could just like do an on-the-spot talk of, do I jump right into the what ifs, or do I jump right into the if there's less people covering it? Okay, so with the recent case, what I've covered, the Christine Passey Parker case on YouTube at least, I am, as a fact, 100% a fact, but I am the only channel on YouTube covering the case. Put aside, obviously, the official news report videos, which 1 or 2 have come out. As for normal people who've got their own channels, I am the only person to cover the Christine Parker case, which is a big positive. And there'll be reasons for that, and I can make the comparisons and the contrast with the Dylan Rounds case right now. With the Dylan Rounds case, still, there's a couple of people covering it, Maybe not frequently, because I can't, but there's still people around, okay? And maybe on different platforms too, if they ever refer back to it. You look back in the early days and mid-range days, there was a range of different channels, okay? And a range of different personalities and characters. Did it go so well? Not really, in the long term. And I know people could say, yeah, but it's good if there's more people covering a case. If there's more people covering the case, there's more awareness, more resources can be spread out. People can cooperate with one another. It brings out the best. It's so much more efficient. More information can be distributed. And you look back and you think, get a grip, be realistic. Long term, was it a success? Not really. Look where we are right now. Ask yourself where we are right now, and then look back to back then when there was more people covering it. Did much happen? If back then originally you had more people covering the case, right, which is supposedly a good thing in people's eyes when it comes to a missing person case, a true crime case, the bigger the community, the better it is. And you look at where things are at now. Well, what about the Shack Lady? Gone. What about Jim Terry? Gone from YouTube. Mr. X? Gone. Salty Pancakes? Gone. Ty Corbin, Lance Kelly? Disbanded over time. What about all the different communities and little allegiances and little gobbling groups? Okay, little turkey gobblers? Gone. Separated. Dispersed. Sparser. More now than ever before. Things have imploded upon themselves. People have been dragged into stuff, people have been attacked, it's spread out now, which is a good thing in terms of the Dylan Rounds case, spreading out. The disease may have arisen from the epicenter of the case and it's spread out. Bad thing is maybe collateral damage, family members, friends of friends impacted down the line, but at least with the Dylan Rounds case and community, although it might be like Chernobyl, the radiation, it's kind of weared off with time and it's just spread out. So the original source is kind of lesser, not as great in toxicity, right? But it's taken this long to get to this point, and you never know, things could charge back up due to the level of silence within the Dylan Rounds case, as I said officially, okay? So it can still go wrong, but when you think of the big community, maybe in a level of stability in the early days, and now you look now, where are people at now? It's just all fragmented, right? Fragmented. So clearly, not much good came from it, right? Maybe some people individually may have benefited and are better off now. But as for the Dylan Rounds case itself, I don't think it came to much good. Multiple people present. Maybe in other cases and communities, it can work, yeah. But not this time, right? To make the comparison to the Christine Parker case, because I'm the only channel on YouTube covering it, mapping it out, spreading the awareness, trying to keep it somewhat active in a way to let other people know about it, to maybe generate new ideas, and just to simply pass on what's been talked about elsewhere, like on the Facebook page, right? If there are updates, genuine ones, that they'll probably be acknowledged in some way to me, but also, some other people as well that may have originated from the Dylan Rounds case and are crossing over with this one. It's like a smaller sample size. It's a bit more focused, a bit more concentrated. So if there's less people covering a case, in terms of the distribution of that information, there's less likely chances of information being gatekeeping by people out there, like in the Dylan Rounds case, where they drip fed it, where it might have been a rumour, it might have been BS, but they still drip fed it as if it was a fact, which wasn't great. Whereas in a scenario like this, the way I envision it, whether it does exactly happen or not, it's kind of like the Veach case in terms of a smaller amount of people covering it, if not arguably the smallest, because I'm the only one on YouTube, as for this platform at least, that if information does come about or is kind of spread on YouTube, most likely it'll be towards me on my channel, which you will be able to see, whether it be the comment section, the live chat, with some of the family members and key individuals within the case already being aware of my channel, or at least the videos I've done in recent time on this case, then they know where to go if they've got information to just simply pass on, to give a little update, to answer a question, to clear something up. Smaller scale, more efficient. Less gatekeeping, less BS. Appropriate wording, perfect, right? I know people will say, well, the only aim and goal is finding a missing person. But you know what's more important? Is the focus and the steps made to get to that point in the first place. And as seen in the Dylan Brown's case, it was lacking, okay? A lot of obstruction, a lot of, do you call it white or grey noise? I don't know which one it is, but just noise which is like buzzing about, fills the atmosphere, but it bloats it, doesn't do too much good, okay? I mean, when it comes to the physical searches in the Dylan Rounds case, has it led to much success? Well, Dylan has not been found, so you could argue it's not been a success. People would get triggered hearing that, but that's just being realistic. What you can argue and say the success is people who've gone out there have been able to tick locations off the list, narrowing it down. Does it kind of like with the Kenny Veach case, kind of, maybe more focused because you got a bit more to go off from, and you seem to have that confirmation that Dylan is no longer alive at the hands of somebody else, so you know what to expect if you do just happen to find the missing person, compared to Kenny Veach, which is an ongoing mystery, which some people believe he's alive, others don't, right? To be honest, I think this conversation is going quite well at this moment in time, right? Just talking it through. Is it deep? Is it too heavy? Hopefully not. Hopefully people can follow, listen and understand. Still got a few things to talk about. As I said, this is all on the flow. No script, nothing, no words, no keywords, no bullet points. I'm looking at absolutely nothing. Well, I'm looking at the sky through the window. That's basically it, okay? Apologies if there are levels of silence. Whether it be talking slow or pausing for a few seconds, that's just because I'm thinking of the next thing to say. Obviously, when you get other people out there, they don't think before they speak, so then it ends up being a complete mess. But referring back to the Christine Parker case, right people, right place, right time, with appropriate wording. So when the key individuals, was it like April or something, and another where they were saying how there was reported sightings of Christine, but it's not been 100% confirmed. There aren't any photos taken yet to be 100% certain. We're just going off from what we've heard. You hear that appropriate language? They're not saying that it's been solved. They're not saying that, yeah, 100% confident. They're just saying, you know, this is what we've heard. It's not good enough, but it's something at least. As long as the correct wording is used from the get-go, then you shouldn't be like going off down a path of confusion, right? That's where it went wrong within the Dylan Brown's case. Facts, did come out at times. It was clouded by the darkness of BS, rumours, Chinese whispers, which were worded as a fact, worded as a true story when it wasn't. So, you hear about it, you supposedly believe in it, and then you got to untangle everything and work your way back in finding out that it was a load of BS, and maybe, by looking back, you can clear it up in some way or another eventually, but, that's time consuming. Do you want it to be time consuming? No, because as said, the aim is, time is ticking away. You're trying to look for a missing person. You've got a bigger group, a bigger community. You could say, well, that's a positive then. More people at the deck, at the wheel, can operate more efficiently and get on with it quicker, spread out the roles and the tasks that need to be done to follow through with and be successful. But with more people comes more chances of disruption, distraction, and friction and conflict. So all that time spent dilly-dallying around and wasting valuable time, what's happening to Dylan Round's case? What's happening there? The only good thing you can acknowledge that And somewhere or another, there are official people working on the case in the background. Just like how it's been worded within the Christine Pog case, there is stuff going on in the background. Not everything can be revealed public. Not everything has been revealed to the family yet, such as analysing the phone of Christine's and maybe some additional items at the area where the car was found in Eugene Mountain, Nevada, right? But it's clearly explained. It's not a guessing game. In the Dylan Rounds case, it was trying to figure out who knows what, who doesn't, you know. Is there a hierarchy? Is there people on the inside? Are there people on the outside that know people on the inside? How much does Candace Cooley Justin Rounds know? You know? And because of that guessing game, that's what opens up that opportunity for suspicion and people going down possible rabbit holes and stuff. If you're in a situation in the early days of a case where you can just use key, appropriate wording to clear things up, to make it clear and understandable, then it reduces that chance of people going down a rabbit hole. As soon as people go down that rabbit hole, do they come back out? Well, maybe they do, but not quite as the same person as who one went in to begin with, right? At least from my perspective, when covering the Kenny Veach case, which can be rabbit hole infested and all kinds of mystery and intrigue there. But if I ever have approached one, I only went so far down it. I didn't go all in. You go all in, you could become a lost cause. You could, get very confused. It could backfire, If you don't know the full story, you can, just rummage around it just to try and understand it. But when it gets to that point where you think, there's not enough true evidence, can't really be backed up enough, then it's like, well, maybe probably just halt it, leave it there for now, and maybe return back to it in the future, okay? I still find it interesting now, people are saying, more so the family, Kenneth Cooley, in the Dylan Rounds case, Bigfoot, UFOs, I've never seen that ever mentioned before. Anywhere I've been, I've never seen it mentioned. So I don't know how that came about, maybe just more of a personal tip-off towards the family themselves. But I've never heard it myself. People in the chat, let me know your thoughts in the chat. What's the most ridiculous theory or claim you have heard of when it comes to the disappearance of Dylan Rounds? Do any stand out to you? Any wild claims about other people being involved in some way or another? I mean, as for that official documentary, they seem to take advantage of that in terms of manipulating how a certain theory was talked about as if it was like a wild conspiracy, when it was actually just passed on from another person, and just simply reviewing it, giving my thoughts. But obviously certain groups out there didn't see it that way. They had a certain agenda, whether they be influenced by the family or not. That's what happened. Speaking of the family, speaking of Justin Rounds, not seeing any post there online, whether it be updates to do with Dylan Rounds in that sense. So that's still quiet. But just let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Do you think a level of silence for this long is good or not? I mean, yeah, we can go back and forth with Brenner, right? I try not go back and forth too much, unless it's because I'm talking about a finding, an event, and I've got to refer back to what's previously happened for people to understand how it got from there to here, right? I think Bob Farrell's done some videos recently, hasn't he, about Dylan Rounds or something. As said, if you want to summarise it down below, feel free to do so. I think you could argue and say all that's happening now is just basically what happened in the early days, where I was covering the case, doing my own thing, people came into the chat and kind of summarised what was mentioned, maybe in Bob's, or more, well, no, not Bob at the time, because Bob wasn't doing YouTube to that extent, but maybe more so on the Shack Ladies live stream, yeah, where people came on in and said, oh, did you hear about this, or did you hear about that? And then I'm like, what? Never heard of that before. Where did that come from? You get what I'm saying? That's why sometimes quoting, giving the source of where it came from, is very important. I know some people don't always remember. That's unfortunate. It makes it less believable in a small way. Hard to track, hard to follow. See, like, this is the thing what I don't understand, right? What I'm about to say separates humans from one, okay? There could be many humans out there that say they don't like drama and conflict, but yet they still always come back to it or involve themselves in some way or another, right? There might be a few exceptions, but others just keep coming on back, right? Mentioning names, mentioning people they don't like or have issues with, and it's just constantly relighting the fire and the drama, okay? And there'd be people on this channel, maybe, I don't know about right now, but maybe more so back then, people on the channel that left because of similar actions as displayed by what I'm mentioning with people over that way. But, what separates me from mentioning key names of hated people or key names of those involved in drama, what separates me from doing that, what other people are also doing, is because I'm quoting people because it's relevant to the Dylan Rounds case. What other people are doing are just constantly referring back to these others, which haven't really got much to do with the Dylan Rounds case. Arguably, more so in the last 5 months, had nothing to do with the Dylan Rounds case and absolutely everything to do with just a community aspect, which has branched away in terms of the disease and the radiation, right? See, this is the thing. You're in a lose-lose situation, okay? And we'll just use an example on the spot. If there's people in the background, if there's those lurking in the darkness, if there's any little special informants, if there's any little lizard boys, reptilians, aliens, bitch boy posse gang, potato pickers, zombie horde, vampires, Jesus, Gabriel the messenger, hallelujah, any candle bearers, any people like that watching, just feel free to take notes, right? The example could be Jim Terry, okay? Oh, why are you referring to his name? Why are you tagging? Why are you highlighting? Why are you even using that name? Why are you even using it in the title? Because I'm quoting something he said in the past to do with Dylan Rounds, or I'm comparing what's been said there to what other people have said of a certain event which occurred in the early days. Whether it be behaviour, actions, word, language, just quoting, just highlighting, in other words, crediting what someone said, what someone supposedly found or suggested. That's all one is doing, right? But I'd be criticised for bringing up that person's name when I should move on. So what do you suggest then? As for the people that do complain and say, oh, don't talk about these people, move on, move forwards. Just let that sink in, okay? So in the eyes of all the people over time that have said, don't mention that person's name, don't mention Ty Corbin, don't mention Jim Terry, don't mention him at all in the videos, leave them out. Are you saying that when I'm covering the Dylan Rounds case and I'm referring to a potential finding by one of those characters in the case, or a certain bit of information which has come out in the early days, whenever, but when I'm talking about that, I don't quote the source, I don't credit the individual, I just say it without a reference? Well, how are people going to know where it came from without mentioning the name? And then all that does down the line, it makes me prone and opens it up to then being criticised for not crediting people, which ends up being worse because people can get more whiny. Does that make sense? If you bring up people's names because it's relevant to the case and you're quoting or crediting someone, you'll get called out by them and other people for bringing up the names. There's no need to. Well, there is. And then if you don't bring up the names, but you mention the material without crediting them, then you get called out again for not crediting. It's a lose-lose situation. But I'm just simply, behaving and doing what I'm doing with what I did with the Kenny Veach case, right? Whether I came across prats there, delusional individuals, two-faced bastards, whatever it might be, I still quoted them. I still referred back to them, right? Because of something they found, something important, something relevant to the case. Exactly what I've done with Dylan Rounds, simple as. And As for the drama elements, at times some of the drama elements do refer back to the Dylan Rounds case as well, so they need to be mentioned. Yeah, that's it for there at least. Just wanted to highlight that. I do think, the other thing what I do find kind of funny is, do you know that during that, what do you call it? Do you call it a Me Too meme? No, not really. More of a mass apology, you know, the YouTube apology trend, where you get all these people that have branched away from the different communities, mainly the Salty Pancakes community, branched away, and it's a, oh, I'm sorry, mwah, 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 I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Did I see any apologies? No. People acted as prats, people showed resistance, people caused disruption to my coverage on the case. No apologies, F all. Did I receive any boxes of goddamn chocolate, man? Nope. No. People say, Laffle's a box of chocolate. No, like a ringed donut where you put it on a pole and have it in place, okay? In the ground, embedded like a scarecrow. I don't know what I'm talking about with that regards, but there were no apologies this way. Do I expect apologies? I don't expect apologies from cancer, okay? As I said, if it's treat someone like a patient, that's it, game over, done. No way around it, non-negotiable. Patient, that's it. But despite all that disruption, despite the delusional prats and twats, I've still been able to cover the case. And, you know, at the end of the day, the disruption in the chat, which may have driven some people away, oh well, still covered the case. New people came in with time, maybe more passionate, maybe more focused, okay, even if it was short term. And what's happened since? Covered the odd other missing person case, like the Christine one, and some have crossed over. That's good. You know, people like using the words niche. Oh, it's a niche topic. It's a niche case. But at the end of the day, the overall theme, topic, what you're covering is great, massive, popular. Mysteries, extremely popular in life. People are interested in mysteries. As for missing person cases, missing 4111 or something cases, and / or true crime, very popular, in high demand. The times where it becomes niche is the subtopic, like the sub-cell of a particular case. Not all cases are as popular as one another. There's a bit of a hierarchy list, which can be unfortunate. Sometimes it's worth covering a lesser known case, right? Just so people become aware of it. Sometimes these lesser known ones can be more interesting than the popular ones followed by sheep, etc. I say at least from when I've covered the different cases, I didn't follow like a sheep, right? I came into the Kenny Veach case and community as a lone wolf. I came into the Dylan Rouse case community as a lone wolf. I went into the recent Christine Parker case community, lone wolf. Same pattern. Other people have moved around in groups, masses. Maybe a circus, a band. That's kind of like what it's been like, you know. You think when I was covering the Dylan Rounds case at the time where it was kind of dropping off and just about, you know, the other key people ended up moving on to or moving back to Summer Wells case, whatever that is, or the Kylie Rodney case at the time, or the Idaho 4 case. I didn't move. I didn't go on to them. I stuck to the Dylan Rounds one. What were the key factors which made me stick around? Well, in my mindset, ingrained, at least for like when I came on in, I had it in my mindset that I'll be almost technically last person standing in the case. That was one reason. The second factor was due to the nature and the fact that how long the case has gone on for, at least for coverage and consistency, and being able to have the opportunity of all this material with time and key people being present, and for most part of it, good people appearing on the channel, in the chats, watching, commenting. You know, it's like, why should I walk away from this? Okay, yeah, moving on to something different, could be seen more interesting, could bring in more people, or at least keep people around maybe, but it was like, at the time, it wasn't broke. So why fix it? Why make adjustments? No need to. If everybody else is jumping aboard a different ship, jumping off, going in a different direction, what good will it do if I follow? Then it leaves no one left at the helm of the ship to steer, technically speaking, in a sense. So I thought, well, stick around. And still kind of, right? I'd only walk away from a case if you really hit a dead end or like a bit of a checkpoint, right? And that's kind of like what's been the case recently. Christine Parker case, at least at this moment in time, I don't feel like it can be covered every single day. You get what I'm saying? I mean, maybe if you start theorizing and coming up with ideas, maybe it could be covered a little bit more often. It just depends what family, friends, and whoever else thinks about it. Maybe I can do it as a poll or so. You got to take it into consideration. With the Dylan Rounds case, at least at the start, it was treated as you need to follow the script, you need to follow the narrative, you can't go off topic, and if you do, you get punished, you get told off like a naughty little boy, right? I came in blind. I came in 1 month too late, right? I did my own thing. Arguably, a bit risky. Outside of the box, pretty risky. All the other people supposedly in on it, listening to the information. Look where that went. By me doing my own thing, it actually worked out in terms of the long run. So, in a way, it was all under control before I even said it was under control. So that's interesting. And the way the Dylan Rounds case went, up to a point in the early days where it felt like, oh, so everything we've learned about has been a lie? That switching and changing? That being a contradiction to what's been previously said? It all started falling through, didn't it? It started recollecting the pieces and trying to make sense of it all once again. But at least for me, because I didn't stick to the script, it's like I didn't really lose out because I wasn't a part of it in that sense. So it was fine. With the Christine Parker case, the way it's been worded, not 100% confident that Christine has been truly cited or snapshotted because no one's taken a photo. It still opens up that possibility, at least for now, the slight possibility that you could focus back at the Eugene Mountain, Nevada area where her truck was found. Could be something going on there as like what Badger has referred to. I could do a video on it, right? I know we've looked at apologies. I know we've looked at Eugene Mountain already, but maybe not deep enough or along the idea, the theory that maybe she could still be there now, right? Or was there up to a certain point. I've not done that yet because I was thinking, is it going away from the story? Is it going off-road? Could it cause more problems? I'll just do a poll. I'll reach out to the odd person and say, is it okay theorizing, coming up with alternative ideas outside of the box thinking, or is that not a good idea? The argument I would put across, right? During the times of silence or the times of uncertainty, times of where maybe the family members themselves or the friends and the community have to wait until the police give an update, maybe on things they've found or analysed, in this moment in time of silence or uncertainty, maybe there's no harm in talking about alternatives, possibilities, theories and ideas and outcomes, positive or negative, because that in its own right keeps the case alive. Talking about it, commenting about it, mentioning the key words, Christine, Passey, Parker, right? Just the keywords like that constantly showing up on the YouTube search bar or the Google search bar, the Facebook pages, keywords there, ingrained into the system almost. Videos made on YouTube, always referring back to it or as long as possible. It all helps keep the case and the story alive, for sure. As long as the correct wording is used, then worst case scenario would be, you could argue and say, well, finally information has come out. Does it support everything that's been talked about previously? Maybe not at all. Maybe all that was talked about before could have been a waste of time, but did it actually damage, harm the case? No. What did it actually do though? Well, it kept it alive up until the point a true update came out. So there are ways around it. I'll try and put that argument across if there was ever any resistance in, I guess, any case out there, right? But yeah, as I said, comparisons, contrast, right? So summarising it, in my opinion, based off what we know of and experienced, when it comes to the Dylan Rounds case, if less people were involved in covering the case, it probably would have been a lot better off. Okay? Clearer communication, less tension, less conflict. There is a but, and I'll mention that shortly. Okay, so just make sure to stick around. If you had like one or two people out there, boots on ground searching, so whether it be Ty Corbyn himself and only himself, or Lance Kelly himself and only himself, without any of the other drama and stuff going on in the background or wish list, whatever. You had one or two people out there physically searching without the other. Then you had one or two people online covering it. And then you had the rest and the masses on Facebook page. Yes, the coverage might not be as frequent in a sense, but it's clearer. It's not as noisy. It's not as cluttered, right? At a point in time where you might find out something, if you are on the right track or if you're going off track, it might be easier for family members, friends to reach out and say, hey, you need to stop, or hey, here's this information so you know what's up. Makes it easier there. When it becomes too cluttered, it's hard to reach out to people and find them because of all the other noise and obstacles in the way. And if that's seen and portrayed as a negative way, then it could be generalised by the friends and families out there that will see YouTube as a bit of a negative place. But the big contrast, you look at the Christine Passey Parker case, certain family members or friends are all positive at this moment in time. Like, let's say with the coverage I have done, 100% positive feedback in a sense, right? That the family members are appreciative and welcoming of those coming on in to cover the case, which is good, and just to spread awareness. And that's been demonstrated, let's say, on Facebook, with people going out in real life and showing posters, flyers, and all that spread about. So that's been a success there. Maybe more people could join in down the line. I'm not too sure. As for like the coverage, I mean, you could say like with the Aidan Clune case, right? Well, the mother, I can't remember what the mother was. The mother called Amy Clune or something? Can't remember, but parent was welcoming of others getting involved, whoever it might be, whether it be a search, boots on ground, or spreading awareness online, more welcoming than the likes of Candice Cooley, maybe Justin Round. So maybe it differs from family to family, right? Maybe it's down to first-hand impressions, right? I would say and argue, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the Aidan Clune case coverage on that, the drama aspect hasn't been as intense compared to the Dylan Rounds case, because I feel like at a point in time, YouTube standpoint, community-wise, there was a bigger community on the Dylan Rounds case than there was with the Aidan Clune case. Just how it was and how it has been. Is there more people covering Aidan Clune than there is with Dylan Rounds right now? I don't think so. I think both were as quiet as each other in a sense. There might have been bigger waves of physical searches on the Aidan Clune case side because families were more welcoming of general public coming on in to assist. Whereas with the Dylan Rounds case, complete opposite. I wonder what's going on in Justin Rounds' mind when the likes of Aidan Clune's mother, was it around May 2023, May the 14th up to May the 20th, roughly speaking, that it was like, come along, come on in, help us out. And at that time, Justin Rounds supposedly went on down to assist and help too. It was part of like general public volunteering, right? And yet, Candice Cooley, Justin Rounds didn't really want big general public searches with their respect. What's the difference? Just family members, different feelings and thoughts? Is it because one group of family members and stuff had a negative experience with others, and with the Aidan Clune case that hasn't been the case, so there's less negative expectation and more positive anticipation, so more welcoming, maybe. I can't really speak as for like the physical boots on ground aspect, but at least for the online aspect, it's not gone down too well, I guess, with the family when it comes to people covering the case online, more so on YouTube as a whole, although not always key names are mentioned or dropped. As for a general perception, it's not that positive, right? Whereas if you had less people, fewer people, and they stuck out better, stuck out clearer, then family members would be more likely to reach out to those individuals to either say thank you for covering the case, or you're going a bit off topic, you need to stay on track or step down, and it would have been resolved. When you're dealing with a dense, compact unit of people, it's hard to sieve through it all. Whereas the likes of the Christine Park case, yes, it's still kind of recent-ish in a way, but because there's less people covering it, it's easier to reach out to those who are at least present than having to try and look for them. Does that make sense? I said I'll probably mention pros and cons of this all throughout the video in general, so hopefully you're able to catch all the key points mentioned. It's just my thoughts, it's just my opinion overall, simply because my experience with covering other cases and mysteries was the coverage was niche, the audience was not, right? As I said, people like using the word niche too often. It seems to be a bit of a sheepish form of language, right? But the Kenny Veach case, as for a regular basis, or at least back then, it wasn't really covered at all. Only by 3-4 people, that was it. And that wasn't always consistent either. As for the audience, hundreds and thousands of people watching along over time. You know, in the space of 1 month, at a total of 419,000 people watching my videos on the case. Shows how pretty big the audience is, right? When it comes to the Kenny Veach case, the coverage might be niche, the audience is not, right? What about the Dylan Rounds case? Is the case niche? The coverage, not so much. The audience, more niche. Okay, statistically speaking, there are more people interested in the Kenny Veach M Cave mystery missing person case than there is with the Dylan Rounds case. There's more people at a point in time with maybe the Idaho 4 case or the Kylie Rodney missing person case, when it was more of a mystery. More people focused on that than there was with the Dylan Rounds case. So what happens if you're in a situation where you've got niche coverage and a niche audience? Well, not got to that point yet. But I think if one was to ever get to that point, then you probably rethink things and think, is this really worth doing? Is it really practical? Because humans can become very manipulative and start twisting it and saying, you don't care about that missing person? You don't care if they're found? Do you want them dead? They'll start wording it like that, but it's being realistic. If you're spending a certain length of time, depending, if you're a YouTuber or not, whether you're a casual or you're a content creator, right? I'm a content creator covering cases as well, being a hybrid, because that's what I originated from. I didn't originate from true crime. I didn't originate from mysteries. I did completely other stuff, and I can still do them now. I just don't have the time for it, right? So when the time is spent covering a case, if it's not successful in terms of spreading the awareness, letting people know about it, if you got very important information and yet no one's willing to listen or hear, then what good does it really do, right? Maybe people can look back at it in the past, but if from the online perspective it's not really working out with that particular thing, then what is the point? That time wasted, things falling on deaf ears, when it could have been put, that time, into another case which could have turned out more successful and benefited people in some way, hearing about it. As said, this is a factor not many people seem to acknowledge, right? I do what I do. Some people think it's effective, other people think it's not at all. But always make sure and also acknowledge that if at the end of the day that there are at least key people in real life working on that case, that's really what matters. There's a backbone, there's something in the background, there's foundations actively ongoing. As for all the other people, they can help complement it and add on, and kind of like what I've done. With the Kenny Veach case, that's arguably different, right? Kenny Veach, no one at a point was looking for Kenny. And then slowly some people started coming on in, right? And then for the online coverage as well, picking it up. And that's when, over time, the odd person did reach out with their information, the odd family member. So that was useful. But there was no one working on it really in the background up until a certain point where then you had active hikers going out there. And then my coverage was analysing the footage, photos to pick up on anything they may have missed. And that proved a success at times. And also just other viewers watching, they picked up on stuff I didn't see, right? Etc., etc. So then eventually it was established that there was someone in the background. But to get to that point, I just did my coverage. The positive was my coverage, and coverage by some other people gauged the interest of viewers out there who just happened to be from the area nearby and then went out hiking themselves. You know, the coverage intrigued Scott Natal at the time within the area, so that engaged him. That led to his channel being set up, and that's what eventually led to him, you know, making an appearance in the Dylan Rounds case more so in recent times. So that's the origins for you there, right? Coming on into the Dylan Rounds case, basically that was the first time ever I came into a case where there was already people in the background working on it. So it made it better. So if at a point in time my coverage ended up getting mixed up or confused, or I was at a loss for words because I didn't know what to do next or what to cover, it's not the end of the world because there are actual people working on it in the background, right? It doesn't all fall on you. Whereas when covering the Kenny Veach case at a point in time in the early days, if I was really the only one covering it, then if I stop, then it all dies. Not always, but at a point in time, right? More responsibility upon yourself. With the Christine Passey Parker case, as it was stated, police are working on it, people helping one another, general public within the area passing on flyers. Very smooth, very consistent, bit of a flow, and there's things going on in the background. So if I feel like, oh, I can't cover the case or I can't keep it alive every single day, the pressure isn't there in a positive way because there are things still happening in the background and there are still people on the Facebook page and different ones coming in over time covering it, mentioning it, referring, leaflets, posters, whatever it might be. So that's my thoughts there. Was there anything else I wanted to add on? More so with the Dylan Rounds case, the what ifs. You know, the what ifs are, if there was less people covering the case, would Dylan Rounds have been found by now? No. But I feel that if there was less people covering the case, that there'd be less confusion and less headaches and more people sticking around, for sure, within the case. People with time have been driven away from the case as a whole in the community because of either being attacked or sick and tired of all the other additional mess, etc. But I think at times there'll be moments where people have walked away where it may have been unnecessary. They might have got the pants on a twist, and that's just on them, right? Because when it comes to levels of control, when it comes to being able to, for most part of it, talk openly, this is the only place that exists within the case, okay? How many people are getting blocked? How many people are getting messed up by mods? None, because there's no mods here. People can control themselves somewhat reasonable. We have had outbursts from people in the past. It was more so if you wanted like a little mini summary, Jim Terry constantly spamming at short intervals and short bursts, which was pointless. Joy Perry, foul mouth, caps lock, waste of time, disappointment to the Dylan Rounds case, whining here and there. Kathy Waters, originally, the time-travelling individual with their pet parrot, swearing, big capital letters, disrupting and insulting and disrespecting the Dylan Rounds case. Might have changed since, but it still happened back then. You know, people like that. Again, there'll be others out there. Fast Eddie, an individual that might be a bit slow at times to pick up on stuff, and other times always has an answer, but at the same time doesn't always answer the original question. So a bit awkward and stubborn there. These are just like little examples, that is all. It's observations, it's honest, it's on the spot, and it's being realistic, okay? People might not quite like it, but at least I'm just saying it. Because other people act all nicey-nicey and then screw you over in the future. Which one do you want? Over and done with or dragged out? Feel free to select. So yeah, there's been certain humans, but have those humans cause other people to walk away? I don't know. I mean, people didn't leave all at the same time. It was spread out. So maybe there's that to take into mind. Is there any more what if moments? What if the residents of Montello, the town, what if that was never mentioned in the case? Would Dylan have been found by now? No. Would there have been less disruption or maybe less drama sparking from it? The councillors? Probably, yeah. Because there's obviously key names in the Montello area which were dragged into the case, which then because it's all explode and go from there. So maybe if certain names were never dropped or mentioned, maybe you wouldn't be quite in the same mess as we have been, right? What if... Do you know what? I can't really think of any more because partially it's pointless because these what ifs never happened. So what's the point talking about it? Yeah. I mean, you can leave your comments. Maybe it's more ideal to leave comments down below of the what ifs if something didn't happen, or if this person never existed, or if that was never said, or if people reacted differently to that, if family cooperated more with this or welcomed more with that, would it have led to a difference? Like a vague one would be, what if the family encouraged and allowed more people to go out searching over a course of time, like with the Aidan Clune case? Would it have led to much success? Any more than what it has been up to now, right? A what if moment, more of a vital one. What if the family never broke into Dylan's truck and never drove it afterwards, despite being given the heads up by the police? If they never touched it and that data was collected from the truck, what if that happened? What would it have led to? Dylan being found, finding resting spot, the burial site? Could have led to something, right? What if spring cleaning never happened? What if those bags were recovered by police family? What would have been in them? I wonder. Would it have led to Dylan being found? You know, something like that? Is there any more? What if the family and police never responded to that hostage situation call by Kurt Wadsworth and they remained on site? Would anything have changed? A key one, to quote somebody, even though, as I described earlier, the Jim Terry situation of supposedly, what if the family took advice and had those cameras set up on site? Who would it have revealed? Would it have proven that a gun and key fob was returned back, or would it have proved that it was never taken in the first place? That's a good what if moment, right? Is there anything here you can take for the future to apply on what to do and what not to do? Well, maybe if you're involved in a case yourself, which not exactly ideal, but if you were, then you could follow certain steps, right? As for, what about the Dylan Rounds legacy? what happens with that? Does it like turn into like a law? One of those type of things? Bad event, changes made to the system with time, stories told over and over again eventually, maybe. What if Doug from No Thanks never did what he did in the past, never did the other things? What if his channel remained and none of the background mess ever happened? What would have happened then? Well, likely there would have been more updates, because although people may not like Candice Cooley out there or have, theories about her or just in rounds, with Doug being in favour of Candice Cooley and vice versa, if Doug was still here present, maybe there would have been more interviews with Candice Cooley. You get what I'm saying? I'm like basing it on a condition that all the background stuff never happened, was never done, so then the channel would have remained and, we wouldn't have gone through all that patch. As I said, it can have knock-on effects, right? If you do dodgy stuff, or you get in trouble, or something bad happens, and it involves your channel, then it has a negative effect to all the other previous stuff you've worked on. And what I don't understand? Not so much within this case, but just in general, people have advised me with time, oh, you probably should create an alternative account. You should have a backup channel just in case this channel is impacted. Right. But at the end of the day, being realistic, if the channel gets shut down, it gets shut down. If you got a secondary account under the same email, that will get shut down as well, like what we've seen with the people in the Dylan Rounds community. It's pointless. What's the point creating a backup channel if your main channel gets screwed over anyway? And people will say, oh, well, if you get the odd strike or two, then at least you got the other channel to work on at that time. Yeah, but then that leads to possibilities, whether it be then or in the future, of if one gets taken down, maybe that backup channel, which maybe could have been in a different email address, let's say, then that's classified as ban evading, and that's its own illegal or against YouTube TOS. So by people giving advice of, oh, you should create an alternative channel, that can lead to ban evading and just more issues. So no, if you're screwed, you're screwed. If you're fucked, you're fucked. If you're not, then that's okay, right? Just how it is. YouTube haven't screwed me over as much recently. Hallelujah. My live streams, every single live stream has been limited by YouTube. Because it was very casual and loose, I'm not going to appeal, okay? Because I don't want to sit through and watch it all over again, right? Maybe the odd swear word was used a bit more often than usual. I don't know. I can't remember, right? There's no point risking that. They were just casual live streams. They're not my main videos where I know and I can remember what I said and what I did. Does that make sense? So I think that's about it for now. Just wanted to catch back up on the Dylan Rounds case, reflect back on it, and it might share with you the thoughts of what I think about it and where things are at. If there is ever breaking news updates or some kind of news article, I will refer back to it. If any people do have ideas, theories or events, or want map analysis to be done on Dylan Rounds, make sure to leave your comments and suggestions down below, and I may follow up on them, right? This moment in time, kind of focusing with the Christine Passey Parker case and maybe some other bits and bobs in between. I do have a lot of videos on my own phone which need to be uploaded, just random, but for storage sake, I need to get rid of them. I need to upload them before I run out of space, and it just gets messy. So I just need to clear that up in the meantime. And yeah, that's about it. Feel free to like, share the video, leave some comments down below. If you've got any questions, grievances, state them down below and they can be answered shortly. That's it for now though. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Goodbye and good night.